Some women don't beg, don't bargain, and don't break. They just step back, straighten their spine, and walk away like the storm never touched them. There's a certain stillness in a Sigma female that most people can't decode, an inner silence that feels like a warning, a promise, and a shield all at once. She moves with the kind of confidence that doesn't need an audience. She chooses with intention, she listens more than she speaks, and when she decides to leave something behind, she does it with such finality that it feels almost unreal. But she doesn't walk away out of anger or spite. She walks away because she refuses to stay where her soul feels small. From the outside, people misunderstand her. Distance, assuming she is detached or cold. In reality, her detachment is a skill sharpened by experience. She learned long ago that forcing herself to remain in places that drain her destroys her spirit, so she built a mindset that protects her from emotional traps. This mindset isn't about rejecting connection, it's about guarding her inner world from anything that threatens her peace. She knows the cost of staying where she doesn't belong, and she refuses to pay it twice. A Sigma female doesn't walk away impulsively. Before she leaves, she watches, evaluates, and measures what she's receiving against what she's giving. She considers the intentions of the people involved, the weight of the situation, and the truth of her own emotions. She gives chances, not many, and never blindly, but she gives them. And once she sees the pattern clearly, once she senses that her growth is being stunted or her boundaries are being violated, the decision becomes effortless. Her ability to walk away comes from a place of deep emotional independence. While others may look outward for reassurance, she looks inward for direction. She doesn't need someone to tell her what she already knows. She doesn't require validation to confirm her value, and because her self-worth isn't tied to external approval, she can leave what others cling to out of fear. The world has taught most people that leaving equals losing, that walking away means giving up. But in the Sigma female's mind, staying in a destructive cycle is the real defeat. She sees walking away as reclaiming her energy, her voice, and her sense of power. It allows her to reset her environment and rebuild her clarity. She understands that endings, no matter how painful, are often the doorway to new beginnings. Many people remain stuck because they fear loneliness. The Sigma female doesn't. She has spent enough time alone to understand that solitude is not a punishment, it's a sanctuary. Her alone time is where she restores her strength, observes her emotions, and sharpens her intuition. Because she can stand alone, she never fears releasing what no longer aligns with her spirit. She doesn't stay somewhere just to avoid silence. Silence to her is where honesty lives. One of the core reasons she can walk away is that she doesn't attach through dependency. She attaches through choice. When she connects with someone, she gives her presence, her attention, and her loyalty, but she never gives up her identity. She can love deeply without losing herself, and that makes her dangerous to anyone who tries to manipulate her. A Sigma female doesn't love blindly. She sees people clearly, sometimes more clearly than they see themselves. She notices patterns, behaviors, shifts in energy, the tone of unspoken words. Her intuitive perception is one of her most powerful traits, and it informs her decisions long before others understand what's happening. People often try to test her boundaries, assuming that her calm spirit makes her easy to keep around. But her calmness is not compliance, it's control. She doesn't raise her voice, she doesn't beg for respect, she simply withdraws her energy when she senses she's being taken for granted. Her boundary is not a warning, she announces. It is a line she enforces without explanation. She can walk away because she refuses to repeat painful lessons. She learns fast and remembers deeply. If a situation has already shown her its true nature, she doesn't wait for it to improve magically. She doesn't fool herself with excuses or fantasies. She honors the truth even when it hurts. This level of honesty with herself makes her immune to emotional manipulation. The moment someone tries to twist her reality or guilt trip her into staying, she quietly prepares her exit. Another reason she can walk away is that she never relies on chaos for excitement. Many people get addicted to turbulent connections, confusing drama with passion. The Sigma female sees this trap clearly. She values stability, emotional depth, and authenticity. If someone's behavior consistently disrupts her inner calm, she loses interest quickly. She'd rather walk alone in peace than walk with someone who thrives on instability. Her independence is not just emotional, it's practical. A Sigma female builds a life she can sustain without depending on others. Her goals, skills, and resources give her the freedom to move on when necessary. She doesn't stay out of financial fear, convenience, or uncertainty about the future. She knows she will always land on her feet because she trusts her ability to rebuild. That self-trust is rare, and it is one of her greatest strengths, but perhaps the most misunderstood aspect of her mindset is the quiet courage behind her decisions. Walking away doesn't always mean she feels nothing. Sometimes she leaves with her heart shaking, her voice trembling, and her memories weighing heavily on her spirit. But even in those moments, she walks, and she walks because she refuses to betray herself. Her loyalty to her inner truth is stronger than any emotional attachment she feels. This integrity guides every choice she makes. She can walk away from relationships when she senses emotional dishonesty, whether it's hidden resentment, half-hearted effort, or unspoken expectations that demand her to shrink. She notices when someone's actions don't match their words. She senses when love turns into control. She feels when loyalty becomes one-sided, and she won't remain where reciprocity doesn't exist. She can walk away from friendships that have grown stagnant or toxic. She doesn't hold on to people just because of history. She values connection, but she won't sacrifice her peace for familiarity. The moment she realizes she has outgrown someone's mindset or that their energy has shifted into something draining, she quietly distances herself. She doesn't create conflict. She simply allows the distance to become the new normal. People often don't notice she's gone until much later, when her absence feels heavier than her presence ever demanded. She can walk away from jobs, environments, and situations that suffocate her potential. She doesn't settle for comfort zones. When something stops challenging her or starts limiting her, she senses the stagnation immediately. She knows when she's meant to rise, and she won't let fear chain her to a life that no longer inspires her growth. Her relationship with change is unique. While others fear what they can't predict, she sees uncertainty as an open field full of possibility, full of hidden paths waiting to be explored. Change energizes her. Reinvention excites her. She is not intimidated by starting over. She sees no failure in rewriting her story. The Sigma female evolves constantly, and anyone who cannot evolve with her eventually gets left behind. Her ability to observe without reacting gives her an immense advantage. She rarely confronts people with dramatic accusations. Instead, she watches quietly as their behavior reveals their character. She gives them space to be themselves, without influence or pressure, and once she sees who they truly are, she doesn't argue, she adjusts. Her adjustment might be emotional distance, reduced communication, or complete removal from their life, but she always chooses the path that protects her peace. Another powerful reason she can walk away is her detachment from material approval. She doesn't seek status symbols or social validation to measure her worth. She doesn't perform for the crowd. She doesn't shapeshift to fit expectations. Her identity is self-built, self-maintained, and self-protected because she isn't tied to societal approval. She's unaffected by judgment when she chooses to step away. People may not understand her decision, but she doesn't need them to. She honors her inner compass above every external voice. She can walk away because she doesn't fear being misunderstood. She knows people often project their insecurities onto those who choose themselves. She has been called cold, distant, intimidating, hard to read, but none of these labels disturb her. She cares far more about being at peace than being understood, and that makes her unstoppable. Her emotional boundaries are steel, but her heart is not closed. She loves fiercely, but she loves wisely. Before she gives her heart, she observes the rhythm of the other person's character. She sees how they treat people when they're not trying to impress. She notices how they handle conflict, disappointment, or discomfort. She watches how they speak about their past, how they carry their wounds, and whether they take responsibility for their actions. She doesn't rush into intimacy. She lets trust build slowly, naturally, without pressure. And because her trust is earned, not freely given, she has no problem withdrawing it when someone proves unworthy. She values emotional security more than romantic fantasy. If someone disrupts that security, she walks. Her resilience plays a major role in her ability to leave. She has endured disappointment, betrayal, rejection, and heartbreak, but she never allowed these experiences to harden her spirit. Instead, she learned from them. She became wiser, sharper, more discerning. She realized that pain is a teacher, not a prison. Her emotional scars aren't signs of weakness, they're symbols of survival. And because she knows she can recover from any storm, she no longer fears the rain. A Sigma female operates with a long-term mindset. She is always thinking beyond the moment, beyond the temporary, beyond the surface. While others chase instant gratification, she seeks alignment, purpose, and depth. This long-term vision gives her the power to make difficult decisions without hesitation. She understands that short-term discomfort often leads to long-term peace, and she will always choose peace. Her relationship with loyalty is deeply rooted in reciprocity. She gives everything to those who earn her trust. She supports them, protects them, believes in them, but she expects mutual respect and effort in return. When loyalty becomes one-sided, she withdraws hers instantly, not dramatically, not bitterly, just quietly, decisively. Permanently, she doesn't tolerate manipulation. Whether it's emotional guilt, silent treatment, gaslighting, or passive aggression, she recognizes the signs long before they escalate. Her intuition has been sharpened through experience, and her sense of self-protection is strong enough to resist all forms of emotional corruption. She will not let anyone twist her identity or dictate her decisions. One of her most powerful traits is her ability to detach without resentment. When she walks away, she doesn't carry anger with her. She doesn't hold grudges or replay the situation endlessly. She simply releases the emotional weight and moves on. Her heart stays light because she refuses to nurture bitterness. Forgiveness for her is a form of personal freedom, not an invitation for people to return to her life. Her capacity for self-reflection is another key reason she can walk away. She examines her emotions honestly. She identifies patterns within herself. She recognizes when she's forcing something that no longer feels right. She pays attention to subtle shifts in her energy, her motivation, and her sense of fulfillment. When something begins to drain her spirit, she listens. She doesn't dismiss her inner signals or silence her intuition just to maintain an illusion of stability. She knows that ignoring herself leads to long-term damage, and she refuses to betray her emotional truth. Her independence is not a mask, it's a lifestyle. She has built routines, interests, skills, and goals that give her a fulfilling life without dependency on anyone. She invests in her education, her health, her creativity, her career, and her personal growth. She cultivates a world where she thrives on her own terms. Because her life is full, she doesn't rely on relationships to feel complete, and this makes her ability to walk away even stronger. Her emotional discipline sets her apart from most people. While others react impulsively, driven by fear or insecurity, she responds with intention. She takes her time before making decisions, observing how situations unfold without letting anxiety control her. This emotional steadiness gives her the power to act with clarity instead of confusion. When she walks away, it's because she has already processed the situation internally. She has already made peace with the outcome, and once she reaches that point, nothing can pull her backward. She can handle the discomfort that comes with letting go. Most people avoid walking away because they fear the emotional aftermath, the sadness, the uncertainty, the quiet moments that bring old memories to the surface. But she faces those emotions instead of escaping them. She lets herself feel without letting those feelings dictate her path. Her emotional courage allows her to release attachments without drowning in the process. Her standards are rooted in self-respect. She knows what she deserves, and she refuses to compromise her value for temporary comfort or affection. She doesn't allow herself to be treated as an option, a backup plan, or a convenience. She consents when someone is giving her the bare minimum, and she has no patience for half-hearted effort. If someone wants a place in her life, their actions must reflect consistency, maturity, and genuine intention. Anything less, and she quietly exits. She can walk away because she doesn't chase potential. She pays attention to who someone is now, not who they might become someday. She doesn't romanticize red flags or create stories to justify someone's behavior. She sees patterns clearly and refuses to ignore them. She has no desire to fix people or save them from themselves. She knows that real change must come from within, not from someone else's efforts. And because she doesn't cling to potential, she avoids the painful cycles of disappointment that trap so many others. The Sigma female knows the importance of momentum. She refuses to stay in stagnant situations that hold her back. Her life is always evolving, always expanding, always moving towards something more aligned with her purpose. When she senses that a situation is preventing her from growing emotionally, mentally, or spiritually, she steps away. She understands that her future cannot flourish in soil that no longer nourishes her, and she has no hesitation in seeking new environments that support her evolution. Her ability to walk away is deeply connected to her high tolerance for solitude but extremely low tolerance for nonsense. She can spend long periods in her own space without feeling lonely, but she has very little patience for people who bring chaos, drama, or emotional immaturity. She would rather sit in silence than engage with someone who drains her energy. This balance between independence and discernment gives her incredible control over her emotional environment. Her intuition functions like a silent alarm, subtle, internal, but impossible for her to ignore. She feels when something is off long before it becomes visible. She detects shifts in tone, changes in behavior, and inconsistencies in communication. She reads between the lines and listens to what isn't being said. This intuitive intelligence protects her from situations that could harm her, and when her intuition warns her to leave, she trusts it fully, even if she can't logically explain the feeling in the moment. She is not intimidated by endings because she has mastered the art of rebuilding. Every ending in her life has taught her something valuable. Every chapter she closed gave her strength she didn't have before. She knows that the ability to start over is more powerful than the illusion of holding everything together. She is willing to outgrow versions of herself that no longer serve her, and she embraces transformation with a level of bravery that others often mistake for fearlessness. Her emotional boundaries are non-negotiable. She doesn't allow people to overstep or take advantage of her kindness. She notices when someone becomes too comfortable with disrespect, and she responds by distancing herself immediately. She doesn't argue for her boundaries. She doesn't demand apologies or explanations. She simply removes herself from the situation, knowing her absence is more powerful than any confrontation. She is highly selective about the company she keeps. She doesn't surround herself with people just to fill space. Every person in her life has a purpose, trust, inspiration, support, or shared values. If she senses someone's intentions are unclear or their presence creates emotional turbulence, she quietly steps back. She believes that who she allows into her life influences her direction, and she refuses to let anyone compromise hers. Her independence doesn't mean she's emotionless. In fact, she feels deeply. Her sensitivity is sharp, but she channels it with control. She doesn't allow emotions to spill everywhere. She processes them privately, sorts through them carefully, and expresses them only when necessary. Because she understands her own emotional world so well, she refuses to stay in places where her inner balance is constantly disrupted. She values truth above comfort. She would rather face a painful truth than live in a comfortable lie. Honesty with herself makes her courageous in ways others struggle to comprehend. She doesn't cling to illusions or pretend things are fine when they aren't. She accepts reality as it is, not as she wishes it to be. And because she refuses to lie to herself, she never forces herself to remain in situations that contradict her inner truth. She can walk away because she knows how to emotionally invest without losing her identity. She gives compassion without sacrificing her boundaries. She gives support without allowing herself to be drained. She gives loyalty without abandoning her self-respect. Her emotional balance is rare, and it allows her to leave without guilt when something stops serving her well-being. She doesn't seek conflict, but she isn't afraid of it. When necessary, she speaks directly and calmly without aggression. She doesn't lash out or attack, but she states her truth clearly. However, she prefers resolution over confrontation. If a situation becomes a repetitive cycle of conflict instead of growth, she recognizes the pattern and steps away. She believes that peace is too precious to waste on endless battles. Her loyalty to herself is the foundation of her strength. She refuses to compromise her values or silence her intuition for the sake of temporary happiness. She honors her needs, protects her emotional health, and prioritizes her growth. She doesn't betray herself by staying where her spirit is being suffocated, and this self-loyalty empowers her to leave even when she still cares. She has mastered the balance between emotional depth and emotional detachment. She can care deeply without becoming attached in a way that destroys her. She can give love without allowing it to overshadow her identity. She can form meaningful bonds while still maintaining control over her own life. And when a situation no longer aligns with her values, she can detach while still caring. This ability is rare, and it makes her emotionally unbreakable. She does not fear disappointment because she understands that disappointment is part of the human experience. She knows that people will fail her, situations will shift, and expectations will change, but she doesn't let disappointment define her. She learns, adapts, adjusts, and moves forward. This resilience keeps her grounded and allows her to walk away from things that others desperately cling to. Her self-worth is self-created. She does not seek validation from people, achievements, or external approval. She knows who she is without needing someone to remind her. She recognizes her strengths without bragging and acknowledges her weaknesses without shame. Because her confidence is rooted deeply within her, she is unaffected by the fear of being alone or misunderstood. She can walk away because she understands detachment as a form of wisdom, not indifference. Detachment means recognizing that not everything is meant to stay. It means honoring the temporary nature of certain connections. It means respecting her own evolution enough to let go of anything that blocks her path. She doesn't cling out of fear because she knows that what is truly aligned with her will never require her to betray herself. She values emotional reciprocity. If she gives understanding, she expects understanding. If she gives clarity, she expects honesty. If she gives loyalty, she expects consistency. She doesn't demand perfection, but she does expect effort. When she senses that the emotional exchange has become one-sided, she gracefully steps away. She will never compete for someone's attention or beg for respect. Her dignity is too important to sacrifice. Her relationship with time is intentional. She doesn't waste it on situations that go nowhere. She respects her time because she respects her life. She knows that every moment she spends in the wrong place is a moment she could be investing in her growth, her healing, her ambitions, or her inner peace. This understanding pushes her to leave early rather than stay too long. She can walk away because she never allows fear to dictate her decisions. Fear of judgment, fear of loneliness, fear of change, these do not control her. She acknowledges fear but doesn't obey it. This psychological freedom makes her capable of walking away from anything or anyone that no longer aligns with her truth. She holds herself to a high standard, and because of that, she holds her life to a high standard. She refuses to tolerate mediocrity in relationships, ambitions, or personal growth. She doesn't settle for what's good enough. She seeks what is fulfilling, meaningful, and aligned with her purpose. As she evolves, her standards rise with her, and anything that doesn't grow with her is left behind. She understands that emotional peace is the foundation for a meaningful life. Without peace, nothing feels right, not love, not success, not connection. She guards her peace like treasure, and when something begins to disturb that peace, she doesn't wait for it to improve, she walks. Her mindset is shaped by self-reliance. She has learned that depending too heavily on others leads to disappointment, so she built a life where she can rely on herself emotionally, financially, mentally, and spiritually. This independence gives her the freedom to leave without hesitation. She sees endings not as losses but as redirections. She believes that everything she releases makes space for something new, something more aligned, more stable, more meaningful. Her ability to reframe endings as opportunities gives her the courage to move forward without looking back. She can walk away because she chooses herself, not selfishly but wisely. She knows that abandoning herself to keep someone else is the ultimate form of self-betrayal. She refuses to shrink to fit into someone else's world. She refuses to silence her needs just to be accepted. She refuses to remain somewhere that asks her to be less. She honors her emotional truth above everything else. If staying hurts her spirit, she leaves. If the connection stops growing, she leaves. If her energy is no longer valued, she leaves. And she leaves with strength, clarity, dignity, and a sense of internal freedom that no one can take from her. She walks away because she knows one powerful truth. She is not afraid of losing others. She is afraid of losing herself.